This week on Unirunner Video Drum Lessons, selecting a drum kit, playing along with minusdrums.com, and I'm giving away some Steve Jordan drumsticks. Hey, welcome back to Unirunner Video Drum Lessons. My name's Darren Mathis. Glad you could tune in. That track you just heard me playing along with, or rather probably over the top of, was called Smackdown. It's from the website minusdrums.com. This is a nice resource for a lot of heavy songs, heavy rock and metal songs without the drum track. So I encourage you to check that out. And for a purchase price, you can download those and play along with them and record yourself. So check it out. You can listen to samples at minusdrums.com. This week I received a voicemail from Nathan in Ann Arbor, Michigan, asking about selecting a drum kit. So I want to go ahead and play that voicemail from Nathan.
Hey Darren, this is Nathan in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I just wanted to leave you a voicemail, let you know that first off, I appreciate your tips, your teaching, and the dedication to the drumming. And the podcasts have been worth it, and I love them a lot. So anyway, I have a question. I'm really in search of a good drum set. I've been playing on an inexpensive electronic set for some time now, but I really am looking for something with good tone, precision, but it's going to allow me to do different things. And only an acoustic set is going to give you those little nuances that I'm really looking for. I've been playing music since I was 14, mostly guitar and other instruments, but have always had this kind of passion for the drums and percussion. So I know about tone. I know about, what I'm really looking for sound-wise. I'm not looking forward to just, banging the heck out of some set. So the question really is, there's so many choices out there. What's the best one? What could help me achieve what I'm looking for? I wouldn't mind starting off with a used set, but I'm willing to buy new. Is there a good time to buy, like before or after the holidays? And then when you buy, what's next? I mean, maintenance, setup, the whole thing. Obviously, I'm pretty new, so I'm looking for a good start in the right direction. Thanks for letting me take some time. I truly appreciate it, and look forward to learning more. Thanks. Bye.
Hey Nathan, thanks for your voicemail and your question. Well, Nathan's wondering what's the best drum kit out there, and he said he's looking for tone and precision, and he's familiar with, and he's got a good ear for tone from his experience, musical experience. Well, Nathan, I'll have to talk in general terms, basically, because there's so many drum manufacturers out there, it's impossible to know what's the best sounding drum kit. And of course that varies from person to person too, because that's really a subjective opinion. But if you look across the board at most major drum manufacturers, each will have a beginner line or an economy line, middle line, and a high-end line. And there might be degrees of kits that they put in between those. But if you look across the board, usually the difference going from the beginner kit to the middle line kit is usually more dramatic than the middle to upper kit as far as what you can hear and a difference in sound. So if you go through to any of the major drum manufacturers, Ludwig, Pearl, DW, Tama, however you pronounce that, Sonar. I mean, there's just a myriad of drum kits out there, not even to get into the independent and lesser known custom shops across the country and overseas. But some of the basic guidelines I would look for, since you look across the board, it's really hard to discern because most high-end drums are going to be made of maple or birch. Maple's generally considered a good overall or around wood, good all around wood to use for a variety of applications. It's really warm. Birch is usually considered to have a little more high end to it. Other cases, there are many other woods that are used. African mahogany usually has a little bit lower end to it. My drums here are a combination of maple and mahogany. They're Pearl Prestige Session Selects from around 1997. Now, it's not African mahogany in here, which is what, like for instance, Pearl uses in its reference series, but they say a hand-selected mahogany, so that leads me to believe it's a more economic mahogany, lesser expensive. So it's 7 plies, like on the toms, a ply of maple, ply of mahogany, and so forth. So it's a little bit less expensive, but this, when I bought it, was one of the higher, wasn't the top of the line drum kit like the Masters Custom, but my snare is Masters Custom and it's all maple. But if you do look at the mid or the higher level drums, they're going to be pretty comparable. So what I would use as a basis for selecting your drum kit are a few things. One, the sizes of the drums you're looking for. Mine are kind of a standard size. Like for instance, this high tom here is 10 inches by 10 inches. A lot of the drums now that are more popular are a little bit more shallow. They're easier to tune that way and create a more fundamental tone. And they're a little bit more resonant, whereas these ones have more projection, or the deeper they are, the more projection they have, and obviously the lower you're going to be able to tune them, or at least they're going to sound lower. And so I would use the size that you're looking for with that in mind. Like in the 70s, the power toms, where you got even deeper than these drums, were pretty popular because you get that low rumble and that boom and a lot of projection and power, but it's not as easy to tune it, and it's not as easy to get a fundamental, really pure tone out of them. So I would look at the sizes and compare those especially. Now, the differences you're going to find in manufacturers too come in play when you look at the hardware. And like for instance, the lug design. Yamaha makes some lugs that are really cool. You can loosen them up and pull these off, and makes the drum head, switching of drum heads, really easy. So, and Yamaha has a really cool, these are Pearl, by the way, but I'm just talking about when I think of cool hardware, I think of Yamaha for, like for instance, the tilter arm here on the tom that they have has a ball, because a friend of mine has a Yamaha kit, and it's really nice. You loosen it up and you can just move that tom anywhere and tighten it back up, because of the hinge, or this tilter is based on a ball system. So little things like that are important to look at when you're selecting a drum kit, because you're really not going to be able to tell one shell from another, and the quality is going to be real comparable if you look at some of those high level drum kits or upper line drum kits. Other things you can look at the finish. I mean, if you have a favorite color, it might sound kind of trite, but a lot of drum manufacturers will finish their drums differently. Like for instance, DW is known for their satin finishes, and other companies might be well known for their particular finish. Maybe they do a good wrap finish. It's really what you're looking for. I tend to think that the finished drums like this that are varnished have a little more resonance than the wrap drums, because the wrap drums you're going to have another coating of separate material over top of the wood. That's something to consider. It's really important, and you're not going to be able to find a lot of difference if you're looking at an expensive drum kit in the bearing edge. It's always important, if you took that drum head off and laid the drum on the floor, to see that the bearing edge all around the drum is exactly level, so that the drum head is perfectly in contact with the wood all the way around, so that the energy can transfer properly. If it's not straight, or if it's curved at all, you're going to have problems tuning it, and it's just not going to sound good. You're going to get a lot of bad overtones. But again, it's really not something you need to concern yourself with for the most part. If you're buying a high-end drum kit, or even a midline drum kit, as much as it would be if you're starting out with a beginner kit, or if you're going to garage sales and finding used kits. But garage sales can be a good place to find great deals on expensive kits. It's just harder to come by unless a reliable source, and you might spend a lot of time trying to find one that way. And you never know where someone's left their kit, so if you're buying a used kit, you want to make sure that they had it in a place where it was humidity controlled, or at least the humidity wasn't having a lot of large fluctuations. Like in my basement, I try and keep it around 45 degrees, or 45% humidity, so that there's not a lot of fluctuation there. And two, if it was an environment maybe where people were smoking, or it was hot, or just all those things to consider when you're buying a used kit that you don't have to worry about when you're buying a new kit. But I don't want to dissuade you from going that direction if that's what you want to do. Another way to pick drum kits, and this is also, if you have comments or additions to what I'm talking about today, feel free to call my voicemail line and leave me a message. It's 1-800-827-9170, and that's a toll-free call. And you can leave a message. If you want to start over, just push pound, and you can record it as many times as you want until you get the way you want. So anyway, back to my rambling about how to select, some ways to select a drum kit. Another way might be to simply go with an artist that you like their music, and select the drum kit that they play, because hey, if it's good enough for them, that's kind of the philosophy I've gone with before. I knew Chad Smith, one of my favorite drummers from Red Hot Chili Peppers, played Pearl, so that was a no-brainer in my initial search for a drum kit, knowing that Pearl was a good drum kit. So artist endorsements certainly pay off for the companies. It kind of makes things a no-brainer for us, and a lot of the drum loyalty comes from that too. And if you look at a lot of the drum forums, kind of people will base their loyalty on what they consider the best, not because they've been able to play every drum kit ever manufactured, know what's best, but sometimes they'll go with whatever drums their favorite musicians play, and they just consider them the best. But you kind of get a sense that it's really, I mean, it's just trial and error. Go into your music shop. The best way is to try them in your music shop, and don't pay too much attention unless the person or the drum guy at the shop has done a lot of work in tuning, because lots of times the drum kits in drum shops aren't tuned up properly, because they figure it's too much of a waste of time, because they're gonna go out the door pretty soon anyway, and they don't. A lot of people don't want people to be playing the drum kits because it mars the heads up. But that's another thing. When people are talking about drum heads, don't even pay attention to, if you're looking at used kit, how beat up the head is, because they can be so easily switched. I remember when I was first buying my drums that I can't believe now that the condition of the heads actually came into play when I thought about drumming or buying a drum kit, because it should just be a non-issue. You're going to replace those heads often anyway, and you're going to want to, unless they're good heads from a reputable brand when you buy them. And most, like I said, most mid to high level drum kits nowadays have very nice heads that come on them, because they want you, when you get the drum, to be able to tune it up easy and for it to sound good to you right away, which most of them do. And that's the difference between, I noticed when I went from my beginner kit to a higher level drum kit, and just the ease of tuning and the ease of getting a good sound out of it. It's like the difference between playing a cheap violin and a Stradivarius. It's just easier to get a lot better sound out of a higher level instrument. I noticed on these I started tuning them up and I hit it and it was just a cleaner fundamental tone, whereas my first drum kit I really had to work and use a double layer pinstripe head to mute a lot of the overtones. Right now I've got Evans heads on, or Evans E-rings on here, basically just to quiet the drums a little bit. I was using Moon Gel too, but you really don't need a lot of muffling, especially in a live situation. You can hit these and it's not going to be a tone that it's not going to have a lot of overtones that are hard to control if you've tuned it evenly around the head. And that's the difference between some of the less expensive kits and the higher level. It's just easier to get a good tone. So those are a few ways to select a drum kit. There are a lot more, but those are some of the basic things. If you consider that most of the things are equal, a lot of drum manufacturers actually use the same drum shells from the same company. There's I think it's called Keller. It's a real well-known drum shell manufacturer that a lot of the custom shops and other shops will order the drum shells and they'll drill them themselves. They'll mount all the hardware, they'll finish them, not in that order, but they'll do that themselves. So a lot of things are equal. So it's those little things to look at, the sizes, the finishes, the hardware options. One of the things to consider when with hardware is that the less metal that comes in contact with the wood, generally the more resonant and the better the drum's going to sound. On these there's a ISS mounting system that just clamps onto the rim, so there's no hole or big hole that was drilled into the side of the drum in order to put a tom mounting arm in there. And that's pretty well known and marketed by drum manufacturers. And that's really the difference that drum manufacturers have to latch on to, is something that makes them unique and allows them to market their drums in a unique way. If you look through Modern Drummer, and it's just really interesting, all the different ads and the ways that drums market themselves. A lot of times it's artist endorsements, but a lot of times it's something unique about that drum. One of the most unique things to come along with drums in the last couple decades was when DW Drum Workshop started stamping the insides of their drum shells with a note. Like they might stamp G in here because that's the note when all the hardware is off and the heads are off, and they just hit the drum shell. It resonates at this fundamental tone, and they stamp it with the knowledge that you can tune it to that note and it'll be resonant, but it doesn't mean you have to tune it to that note. You can tune it higher or lower. But that was just a brilliant, in my opinion, way to market the drums because it was unique. And so things like that, if drum manufacturers can latch onto something like that, it makes them really marketable. The rim mounts that are popular these days too, that are like the ISS mounts. Just about every high-end drum kit that you come across is going to have some sort of suspended mounting system. The goal is to, as I said, have the drum come in contact with the least amount of metal. And you'll see that in the lug design too. On here, on these drums, there's a lot of contact with the wood, but drum manufacturers are trying to make that less and less these days as a way to market their drums and just to make the drums sound better. So I've gone into rambled on about a lot of different things you take a look at when you're selecting a drum kit. So I hope that helps you a little bit, Nathan. Now, if you've got a question, comment, or suggestion, feel free to call my toll-free voicemail hotline at 1-800-827-9170. And like I said before, you can leave a message. If you're not happy with a message, just hit pound at any time. You can start to re-record it until you get it the way you want it. Okay, as I mentioned, I've got a pair of Steve Jordan drumsticks to give away. The reason I'm giving these away is because I've started using these JoJo Mayer drumsticks. I already had a pair of these. I don't think I'll ever get to these necessarily within the next few years. So anyway, I really like these JoJo Mayer drumsticks, and but these are really nice drumsticks too. The difference is the JoJo Mayers are a little bit shorter and thicker. They're like a 5A, but about an inch shorter. And so as JoJo says, they've got a beefy feel, but they're real fast. And I've really enjoyed playing with them. I just like the fact that they're white too. They're kind of cool. So I'll give these away. I'll randomly pick someone who sends me the answer to this question based on a Modern Drummer article that just came out with JoJo Mayer in it. One of my favorite drummers. He's probably my favorite drummer right now. He's just got, as Modern Drummer says, sick technique, but he's got a lot of personality too, and I just like his style. But here's the question, the trivia question in the article. And I gave a review of JoJo Mayer's DVD, Secret Weapons of the Modern Drummer, a few podcasts back. And during that podcast, I mentioned that JoJo, in his DVD talks about two drum grips, the French grip and the German grip, but he doesn't mention one grip that, and he does explain why he doesn't mention this particular grip in this Modern Drummer article. Now, if you know what the name of this grip is that I'm talking about, that I mentioned during my podcast and that he mentions in the Modern Drummer article, just email me before December 15th, 2007, and I'll select randomly from those emails the answer to that, or if you've answered that question correctly, I'll select randomly one of those emails and I'll send you those Steve Jordan drumsticks. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, keep practicing and God bless.